we again. Sit back, relax, we got the brain of band. No need to stress, in the house is Van Bellen. The game is windsurfing, you can't yell them or tell them. We get the news, the views, the win biz. The brand's gear, tips plus the world's best quiz. The cause PWA. We're professionals without the pay. There's nothing in pole dancing that we won't chat. From tandem boards to a windsurfing cat. It's your one-stop shop for a laugh and listen. Tune in each week or you'll be doing the missing.
G'day.
So sorry.
Sorry we're late. It's all my fault. I was sailing, so it was a pretty good excuse. And we haven't had much wind here in the last couple of weeks. So I suddenly blown up with some waves, went out in the water, and I couldn't get off the water. I rushed. But here we are, Benny. I thought you'd understand.
Yeah,
If anyone would understand, I thought it would be you.
Well, interestingly, because we have a guest this week, we have a guest from the industry, and I was just speaking to him, and he is very familiar with Australia. Spent a bit of time there.
Oh yeah,
he hasn't been there for a long time. I think I was speaking before, like 2012, I think it was, and we were saying like, if you can't run a windsurfing podcast and you're a bit late because it was windy, you know, what's going on? Something's wrong, isn't it? So I think if there's any excuse that can be put down, it was windy or the waves were good. That's fine. Okay, we're going to get into the podcast because we have been chatting for a few minutes because we were waiting. We've been waiting.
Okay.
So who have we got? You've probably seen the title, but we have got an interesting guest. And we're going to do some background. We're going to do some stuff. He's got a new current job, but he's been around, this guy. He is a bit of a, I was going to use a rude word there, but he's been around a few people and now he's ended up at Duotone. We're going to go through all his backstory. We're going to go, through his windsurfing, where it all started. He's got some other hobbies on the side of the product manager job, which is what he's doing now at Duotone. You've probably seen the video that we just re-released because they did make this video last year, Duotone, and it is basically a run through their new factory, which has had something like nearly 40,000 views, which is kind of crazy. So you guys are obviously interested in that, and we thought, well, it's a good time to bring it on. Also, if you've been following the channel, you'll also know that the Cobra video has also just been released, which is a look around the Cobra Factory. So now we've seen kind of both factories. For so long, we've not seen any factories. And then now in the last 6 months, we've seen, a couple of factories. I think looking at the views, I think you guys are super interested in that. So anyway, without further ado, let's get Mr. Dani Aeberli in the house.
Welcome, guys.
Hey, Daniel.
How you doing, man? All good?
Sorry.
I'm very jealous of Paul,
mate.
actually. I'm very jealous of Paul that he was in Coronation sailing, and Benny said one of the best days of the season. So, yeah, what can I say? Very jealous, but you deserve it, I'm sure.
Oh, thanks, mate. You've sailed here a bit, have you?
Yes. I've been in Australia not for a while, like 2012, but I spent 13 winters, European winters in Australia. So I know pretty much every spot there. I love it. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, cool. I'm actually looking forward to this podcast, Daniel, because I'll be honest, I've never met you before and I know very little about you. And as I was just saying quickly before the podcast started, I love having people who are behind the scenes in the industry in there because, as Ben said, it seems to be a flavor of the month at the moment. So looking forward to learning more about what you're up to.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, like I said, Dani has been around the Dirty Monkey. He's been around the industry for a long time, probably like me, but he's obviously been more involved in the industry and spent a lot of time in Australia. I think the best thing to do is for you to just give us a quick sort of backstory for you, maybe just your early windsurfing, kind of where that kicked off, and then kind of a little bit of a timeline, and then we can jump in afterwards.
Yeah, I was thinking about it a little bit before to how the timeline was working, but I was quite surprised how long I'm already around as well.
Yeah,
as we are now in 2025. I pretty much got into windsurfing when I was a kid at Lake Garda. My dad was a windsurfer, and then started with 7, and then all of a sudden got a little bit more into windsurfing and started a little bit of freestyling and racing. then kind of entered some national teams and so on, and then started to work a little bit with Patrik in like 2003. And
So
then
just give us you're Swiss.
I'm Swiss. Yeah, I'm half Italian and Swiss, but I'm born in Zurich, and I still have residential in Switzerland, and I'm traveling around like most of us do, but a little bit more behind the scenes, right? But I'm mostly always somewhere.
Yeah, because I mean, my early memories of you was a freestyler. Weirdly,
yeah, I was a freestyler.
Yeah, but you obviously had a lot to do with the racing as well in Switzerland. I think you've been Swiss champion a few times.
Yes, a few times in racing, course racing, and then freestyle. I did some World Cups as well. The Podersdorf, all those. I think in the freestyle days, I had those magic years. I had the golden years there, and I was quite young there. And we had like a Swiss crew traveling around like Podersdorf and all those events. This was incredible, right? That's around the 2000s, 2003, Lake Garda, King of the Lake, and so on. So I've been around for a while then, and then I always kind of liked the development of the stuff. So I got a little bit always on the side into this trying stuff and so on. That was always kind of my thing. So,
but have you got a background in design, or it's something you just kind of picked
up? I made a 4 years apprenticeship in Switzerland as a technical model constructor. So that's where we built molds for industrial design mostly. And I did this for 4 years, which was an incredible thing to learn. And I was also, my dad was a model airplane guy already. So I was as a little kid windsurfing and doing this, constructing stuff and building stuff, and it was always kind of my side hobby to create stuff and use stuff myself, and I was always really competitive as well. So then you kind of get to use the products and you try to improve and stuff, and that was always kind of my thing, which I really like until today, of course.
How do we go Benny?
No, you go. There's a bit of a delay, so I'll just let you talk.
Sorry, just to go back a step, but how do I pronounce your surname?
It's called Aeberli.
Oh, Aeberli. Okay, cool. Because in English, having an A, E, and a B in a name is a bit strange. But okay, cool. So now I know how to pronounce. Yeah, I know, but it's always good to know how to pronounce someone's name. It's good. Otherwise, I'll just completely stuff it up.
It's never bothered me, mate. I'm a commentator.
You know all the names, Benny.
He's been around as long as I am. That's why.
Yeah.
Almost.
Aeberli. Cool. Anyway, all right, your turn, Benny. Sorry, mate. You want to say something?
So it's so from the early days, obviously keen windsurfer, competitive, freestyle. When did you get into doing your first windsurfing? Because I'm going to quickly overview just so people understand. So your first stuff was working with Patrik Detailmer F2. Was that your first one, or was there anything before that?
And it was actually started even before that, when Patrik was still shaping boards 30 kilometers away from my parents' place in his garage, or let's say a little workshop. He made custom boards, and in my apprenticeship, I made a windsurf board as a final exam, I would say. Okay. So I built my own windsurf board, and of course, Patrik gave me the raw materials and stuff, and that was a really, really cool time, because I never built one, and he basically also just started to build his own boards because he thought what is available on the market is not good enough, and then the whole thing started with race boards and some freestyle boards with those ducktails. Remember?
Yes.
The Spock ducktails, man. He made boards with this. He made me a freestyle board which really had this massive duck thing, and I pulled it out in the World Cup, and everybody thought this is like next level. If I look at this today, I'm like, what the hell? But yeah, that's how
honestly. But this was such a good time, because this was me. I'd had a racing background, and then I'd kind of missed out on the Olympics around 2000, obviously 1999, 2000. And I'd just gone, right, I need to learn to forward loop. And then obviously freestyle was around at the time, so I got into freestyle. So those ducktails, for me, there was this, I turned up at a World Cup with just a normal board. And then there was the guys with the F2 era, which we're going to talk about in a minute, with the big ducktails. I mean, so was he the first guy to come up with the ducktail? Well, you know, was that?
I wouldn't.
Remember.
Probably. I don't know. There was some around.
Was that when you were with F2? Was this in the garage at the time?
Of course, and he made the best freestyle board back then by far.
Yeah,
like there was nothing. It was incredible, and it was really cool because I'm from Switzerland. We always had light winds, so we used quite big sails. And in competition, you know how it is. It was always light wind, and I was one of the first guys which learned the flacker. I have no idea why, but I was able to. And I remember when I went to Podesdorf one year, and everybody was still doing the Spock 540, and I was doing like, oh, what about the one-handed flacker? Boop! Like one after the other, and it just felt incredible for like 3 weeks, and then everybody was able to do it, of course. But this was amazing.
But it was like people who weren't into freestyle, not into freestyle now, you won't know that feeling, because those early days, seriously, there wasn't internet really to properly learn a move. You were picking up like tips off certain people. There might be a magazine sequence, or you know, there was starting to get internet with really bad connections. And it was mad. You learned a move and you felt like you were the man. You were like you say, for a couple of weeks until everyone else learned it. And then it was like the next one. And there was always the next one. When you thought it was all done, there would be another one. You were like, what the hell? But the F2 boards, to go back to F2, were leading the way. What I remember, I was wanting one of those boards. The comp style was it the first one? The comp
There
style?
was the first one, kind of went into production then. This one with the special nose and the spocktail, and we were based on Lake Garda, and this was pretty much the spot to be. I had a little scooter, went to pier every day. That was in 2004, and we just did all those tricks, learned it. It was like it was a cool era, and all the guys were there, and everybody was hungry for more, and one batten less on the sails, and shorter fins, of course, shorter fins. Every year the fins got 2 centimeters shorter. It was very exciting. I like that one.
Remember the days? I remember those days. So,
Start to cry
what was your involvement then with F2? When did it start with F2?
That was around 2000. I would say I joined that national team, whatever, and then Patrik started to shape the boards, and I was kind of helping building the boards and testing the boards, and we were a team. It was really, really great time. Lake Garda 2004. There was full on, I would say. And the racing also on the side. There was not slalom, was not really back yet. There was more like the formula racing, but we were also really strong there with the 12.5 sails and stuff like this. So
when did you stop? When did you stop doing the professional events, Daniel?
Around 2013, something like that. I did a few Fuertes. I did the Gran Canaria slalom. I was already chatting to Marco Lang if we should do the loser of the year, and both signed for Gran Canaria slalom to see. I love that race, and I'm also watching all those races live as much as I can. It's so cool. I really like it.
So
it's awesome.
So F2, you're doing a bit. When does it? Because there was a big changing point with F2. Obviously,
there was a big
F2
point. There was Peter Tommen still involved. He was doing the free ride stuff and also the freestyle and wave stuff. And he was also Swiss from Biel, from where Balz is coming from, actually.
Oh, really?
Same town. So where Balz is coming from, there's a big center of windsurfers from that area. You know, remember the fin designer Jean-Jacques Debouchet? He's also from there. They're all from there. So he got a bit of history there. And then Patrik was already young and wild back then as well. So he was fully pushing to get these kind of shapes going along, and I was in the back also. We pushed together to get that, and then kind of F2 decided back then that they would have a go, and one board would go in production, which was the comp style, I think, for the first. I'm not so sure anymore, but something like that. And then after the success of that, they kind of gave him more jobs or shape stuff. And we had then the opportunity that Cobra invited us in 2004 to go there and shape the prototype boards there. So we basically moved from Lake Garda, where we Patrik rented the workshop from also a Swiss guy. We went to Cobra, where we met Bruce Wiley, which you had on the podcast before, which just arrived from Maui to help there. And they gave us kind of a shaping bay in the factory where we were able to make the prototypes with more hands involved, like all the Thai guys helping us. That was very exciting. There was no WhatsApp and stuff. So we were like, I felt like I'm gone out of
How long were you living in Thailand for?
So we were always kind of 3 weeks there, and then taking the boards, and then travel mostly to Australia or back to Europe, depends on the season. But we needed like 3 weeks to make a batch of boards, and there basically it's where we got all the knowledge. Or we knew, or Patrik knew mostly how to build the boards. I was building the boards then for him, with him, and then at Cobra we have more hands helping us. So we were learning a little bit more how this whole industry works. And it's over 20 years ago, so it was quite exciting and quite different to today, I would say. Yeah.
When you saw the, what's it like now in Cobra compared to what it was like back then? I mean, can you? I assume there's quite a few advances.
I think the main difference is for sure that Cobra had back then mostly focus on the windsurfing production, because windsurfing was still really big, right? And then went a little bit more into industry starts, like car parts and so on. So there were more divisions developed, which was not really affecting us. We were they built another building where we were inside. And it's not like back then, of course, we were able to walk a little bit around the factory, but it's not like we were hands-on in the factory. It was still like separated. Yep. But really cool back then, because you were able to get the boards finished with graphics and everything, and didn't have to do it ourselves. So it was really cool.
But when you're building the boards like that, is that CNC back then, or is that just hand-shaped, or how does it work?
Mostly, I mean, the guys we saw the Cobra video saw that there were EPS molds making the boards, and then they were hand-shaped by guys. And Patrik hand-shaped all the boards. I don't know if he still does, but back then he hand-shaped them all. And I tell you, there were guys, for example, when I shaped some of my boards, I wasn't really good in doing symmetrical stuff. So I did one side, and the Thai guy, they got friends of us. He came and he made the other side in like 5 times the speed than I did. And then I said, maybe you should correct my side also a little bit. I mean, they had magic hands. I mean, you have to believe that they make 5 blocks per day of particular boards into templates. They had magic hands. I mean, he came, he did a little bit like this, and you thought, and you look and you're like, this is magic. So they had so many incredible skilled people. They still do have, of course, but
wow,
that's cool.
That's
it's fascinating. Exciting. It's fascinating watching all the videos that have come out from Duotone. There's also one from Goya. It is super interesting to see how boards are made. It gives you an appreciation for the whole process, and also the cost of a board. Like, it's obviously a very intensive process, isn't it, to make? There's a lot going on.
This is also actually why we made that video we put online, or you guys shared the other day, because we wanted to put in perspective how much work it actually takes to create such a board. And I saw many comments from guys saying, why is it not more industrialized? And looking even more back than before we went to Cobra, you guys maybe remember that there was the Schützwerke in Germany, where they made all the F2 boards in the past, and they were pressed in a mold.
Well, like the Mistral boards as well, where they're almost, is it 2 halves where they squash them together?
Yes.
And how
like a plastic.
Work?
So there was a core and a half shelf, bottom, top, and then they got kind of squashed into a mold and glued together in one shot. And those molds, they cost way over 100,000 don't know, mark or euros or whatever, and they made tons of boards out of those molds, right? And actually windsurfing was already more industrialized as it is today, but we get to this later, how that whole thing came along. But this mass production, which everybody believes is there, was already existing. But the accuracy wasn't there, of course, and also the technology was way simpler, of course.
Yeah, it is
Right.
interesting.
Actually, just on that.
Go on.
Oh, okay. Just on that, I used to work in a windsurf shop in the late 90s, early 2000s, Daniel. And that was in the time when, we were an F2 dealer, and those yellow boards, you remember the Axis and
those ones.
Trying to remember all the names of the boards. Anyway, all those boards, they were just flying out the door. But I was actually, now that you bring it up, they had obviously like a plastic sort of a skin on them, right? And they had a seam around the end, around the edges.
Yes.
So underneath that plastic, was it a kind of like still like an epoxy style board under there with just a bit of a protective coating on top? Is that essentially what
there was glass fiber and also some carbons, because carbon came on in later, but some meshed glass fibers and some EPS core as well. But just the whole technology was a bit different, but it was phenomenal technology back then for the status. But just the whole thing kind of changed a little bit, as you saw that custom boards made from any shaper years back already got made like custom boards today get made. So that's why I also saw some comments. The guy was like, 40 years ago, it was kind of the same. Yes, and when Peter Tommen made, for example, custom boards for Bjorn, they were made in EPS with PVC sandwich and so on.
Yeah,
properly.
Yeah, because I remember you could. The special order was the World Cup edition, the Peter Tommens, but they didn't have the seam around the edge. So it had that nice sort of custom look to them, didn't they? It was an interesting part of. Yeah.
Sorry, Paul. Remember those yellow Tommen boards from F2? They were probably the first ones coming from Cobra in this custom technology. And they were so much lighter, so much more crispy to ride, and it was.
I remember they had like the Tommen signature was in like carbon. You could see his name in carbon. I think that's the one, right?
Yeah, and fully yellow. And I remember there was a Tommen 303. I think it was a course racing board around the 2000, I would say, and it was so much better and so much crispier to ride that all of a sudden those ASA compressed boards, which were made for how it's called in high quantities, I would say, got nobody wanted to ride them anymore. Everybody wanted to have like a full carbon custom board like those Tommen boards, and then the whole industry kind of followed, right?
Yeah, it was an interesting time, wasn't it? Because I worked in this shop for maybe 3 years, so it was just one period of time. But it's the sense that I had was that was really the transition time from the kind of the older days to what we have now. That's that kind of link. Was that around that period, wasn't it? Because boards all of a sudden start. It was kind of, and like obviously everything was developing. The sales, all of a sudden you're getting carbon booms. And like everything was kind of developing quite quickly around that time, I thought.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And maybe you remember that not boards and more as we have it now today, our company, there was also F2, Mistral, and Fanatic were one company. They were all in one. They were run by separate brand managers and so on, but they made all in the same factory. And pretty much everybody got the same product with different shapes. Of course, the technology was a bit different, but there was one guy from this company I'm working here now, which was taking care about all the technical process, which was Jürgen May. He's in pension now, but he was a legend of his own, developing all those products at Cobra in the 2015, something like that. Yeah. 2007.
Yeah.
Timeline, where are we at? So F2, done the freestyle boards, you're going through, and then obviously there's a bit of a tough time for F2. Would that be another turning point? Would that be or is there something?
There was probably another turning point. As I said, bought some more before. They decided that some windsurf brands have to be sold or disconnected from the company, as the internal competition was made no sense, right? So F2 got sold, And so they basically sold us. They sold Patrik, Karen, and myself, and everybody was there. They kind of sold to this new F2, which were run by some guys for some time. And then, I can't even remember, 2012,
the guys who are
13,
buying
like
this, so they're just investment companies, nothing to do with
investment
windsurfing,
company,
is
and
it?
they kind of got it run by us, basically. And then it was difficult, no, because there were so many new faces and new ideas and so on. And then that whole thing kind of started to fall apart slowly in this F2 section, of course, because the owner and other guys had different opinions and so on. But the guy which had the money is kind of in charge, and then you put this other guy again in charge and so on. So it kind of fall all apart, yeah.
Well, with this was when
was very
Patrik, obviously Karen, Yagi, and you were working as a team, and until this point.
Yes.
And then that's what fell
yes.
apart, or the business. Because anyone who knows Patrik, if you've listened to the podcast, well, if you know him, he's very strong-willed. Look what he's done with his company since. You can see you've got that drive,
Amazing.
you've got that. He knows what he wants. So I could imagine him working for someone who's just a money man and having ideas might be a bit of a. Or was that not the problem? I mean, again, I don't know. I'm sure
they're strong minds.
in that.
I mean, honestly, to know exactly back what it was, what really made it at the end of the day, which followed apart, but definitely it was too many, not arguments, more like different ideas and so on. And Patrik always wanted to have it his way, which it's nice. No, you know how good as a designer he is and the mastermind behind that, but he wasn't in charge. So for me, kind of, it's hard to say now, but it was always clear that he has to be his own boss because he's made for this role, right?
Yeah,
he's made for this role. So I don't even know if it's the fault by the guy which was running F2 back then or not. But at the end of the day, it was for sure the right way for him to create his own brand. And basically, I just stayed because we all kind of, what was the option? So I stayed there and continued with F2 for a few years, which was kind of cool. I learned a lot. It was also very tough, of course, but I always kind of loved that brought more community back on with back then the Fanatic guys and so on, and we always had kind of a connection there. But I started with my friend, which was doing the boards in CHD. I built the boards myself in Bangkok in the Cobra Factory. So that's how I got to know all the Thai guys closer. So I did kind of follow up the same thing, and I made also some really cool boards looking back. So like this, I don't know if you remember F2 Rodeo.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that was Steven van Broekhoven made that famous, obviously.
That board, it was kind of my first freestyle board I made and got world champion with that board.
Yeah.
And then I keep doing this. I knew how to build boards and stuff, but it was try and error like we did, no? So that Rodeo was a breakthrough because I wanted to have the board shorter than they were back then, and then basically was a lucky shot. But take the credit anyway.
Actually,
I'm gonna say, take it. Take it.
You just said something, Daniel, that just reminded me. We're talking about how the industry developed and the products developed. I think one of the first times that I remember seeing what I would consider is now the modern sort of epoxy board was those Maui project boards.
Yes.
Remember that?
The first
because oh, was it? Oh, okay, because they came into the
Cobra
shop.
Boards, first industrialized Cobra products. Of course, they made boards before it, but this was kind of when it really came alive, I would say.
Yeah, because when that board came into the shop, you could just tell this was kind of a step up in, I don't know, in product, and it was very light. And it was, I don't know. Do you remember the board, Benny, or?
I've got quite a good story about those boards, but I had a JP245, the yellow one. I basically went out trying to learn to tabletop. I snapped it in half And I took it back to the shop and said, "You've broke, my board's broke." And the guys at Boardwise, big shop in the UK, went, "Well, they don't make these anymore, basically. They now shopped into Maui Project. So we can't give you that one of those. We can give one of these Maui Projects." So they ended up riding Maui Project. But I just laughing when you said it was light, because they were light. But my board, because I was learning freestyle at the time, because I didn't have a proper freestyle board. Maui Project had like this wave freestyle board. But the thing looked like a piece of Swiss cheese. It was like holes all over the bloody thing. The good thing was it was white on the rails, so you could just repair it all and then spray it, and it looked like brand new. But yeah, it was. I do remember them.
That was cool. My project was really cool. It was really, really cool.
So where are we at in this? So you're at the moment, Patrik Dietelm and Karen Yagi have left to do Patrik to start their own company. And you stay on at F2. You've done the Rodeo, which is like you say, shot in the dark, but get a world title with it. And that board is still an iconic name of a freestyle board. Yeah, that's the Maui.
Oh, that was the Maui Project.
That was the Freestyle Wave one. Yeah, that was the Freestyle Wave one.
The cool thing is, like, I had this first Rodeo production board, and I went to Podder store with the pre-production board. And remember, Tonki Franz was on F2's team. So I gave him the board. And Tonki is a very, very nice guy, right? And so he went out and he sailed incredible from another league. And he came in and he said, "This board is really shit. I don't like it." I was like, huh? I was like, "But I really like it. Are you sure? Because everybody other likes it." "No, I don't like it. It's so short and it spins so fast," but he was flying high and quick and so on. And I said, "Tonki, maybe you should try one more time." And he tried it a few more times. And then he was like, "Man, I think it's really good." And because I think the time was just not ready, because it was kind of radical compared to what was around there. And that was really cool. I really liked that. That was a cool era. And they made different sizes of it. And then, when going on like that.
But it still was talked about. And it also obviously did some wave boards as well, because I had a couple of friends who had the wave boards who really liked them. So, I mean, you obviously made some stuff.
I made the Barracuda, F2 Barracuda, and I was in Thailand holding that board, right? And there was a time when the quad boards came along. And you guys all know Fabian Vollenweider is a fantastic shaper, the taboo shaper, okay? A super cool guy. And the guy was also shaping the boards at Cobra. So he came to my room and I said, "Fabian, do you have any idea where I have to put those front fins?" So we put the front fins in, like, "Oh, here." And we went to try their boards, like, "What? This is sick. Quad boards are really cool. Next level." So he measured it in the shaping room from the test, like, "I would put them here. Let's try that here." Okay, so then we tried it.
But that's a lot of it. When we had Peter Tommen on the podcast, I can't remember how many boards he said he made, but it was insane. Like literally trial and error from back in the day. But he was pumping out. I don't know what, I can't remember what the number he said on the podcast, but it was pretty insane to be able to make that many boards. I mean, crazy, really crazy.
So I had Tonki back then, and then I had Steven van Broekhoven for the freestyle. And then you will like that. Then I spend always time at Lake Garda because I really love Lake Garda for flat sailing and also for racing, right? And there was a time where Alberto Menigatti was like the king of the kings of Lake Garda. I mean, the guy was, I mean, don't need to mention the guy was an absolutely legend, okay? And there was this other guy with the Gastra sail and the JP board. That's like, this guy, wow, this guy has talent. I think this is the next guy. So I got him to ride the F2 boards with me, and there was Matteo Iachino.
I was going to say, I was just about to bring that up because one of my first commentary events was when he was on Challenger and F2 boards. I think it was Korea or something. And it was kind of his breakthrough. It wasn't his first competition, but it was his kind of breakthrough where people are like, "Who's this dude?" Like,
that guy has massive talent. I mean, you see today still he's like world class. We don't need to mention this, but back then I we saw already this guy because Menigatti was the king of the kings.
Yes.
He was twice the speed from everybody else with those 0.7 sails and the big starboard. And there was Matteo. I was like, wow, that guy. I was like, maybe that guy I can still afford.
Yeah.
And then he had
That
the
was
breakthrough
that.
with this challenger sale with the slalom boards we made. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
So that was when you were doing the slalom boards as well for F2.
Yes. Yeah, I made basically at the end of the day all of the boards, all the range I had to take care pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you, sorry, just to go back a step, but when did you sort of start in the industry working with the board, designing, shaping, production? What year was it you start?
So basically my apprenticeship was around 2000 where I made that board, but Patrik pretty much teach me how to build a board, I would say. And then 2004, we went to Cobra. So 21 years ago. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, okay. No, because the reason I ask is because then it was probably just after your time, because, you know, I was thinking about the no-nose boards, but that was kind of more like the early to mid 90s, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So you didn't have anything to do with that.
No, I never had to do anything with that. But the cool thing now is basically I'm over 20 years in the industry, but I'm still 10 years younger than the other guys which were with me. This is kind of still cool. I got a bit gray now as well, but I'm still like, I'm 43 now, so it's not so bad.
No, you're young considering how long you've been in. It's impressive.
I
can tell you right now that
apprenticeship in 20.
Well, I was going to say, Ben and I are very jealous of that head of hair you got there, mate. It's like,
hey,
but Kenny White.
Oh, okay.
I told you, we're going to Turkey. We're following the other windsurfers. We're going to Turkey.
Turkey, are we? Oh, cool. Going to a clinic.
Okay, so F2, you know, Patrik's left. You're working on your own for F2. And then, as far as I know, you get an offer from Fanatic. Is that in the right timeline?
Yeah, there was I was dealing with the F2 guy. Like there was always a back and forward with the guy. It wasn't really easy, and there was also a new owner running it and so on. So I liked it, but it was not. I felt like it's not the right road to go along. And then Jürgen May, which had that job aboard some more making product management, was holding on that job forever, of course. So there was no space for me to go in. And Craig Gettenbach, which was the brand manager back then from Fanatic, we spoke every year pretty much how I could enter that company there, but there was not really a spot for me. And at the end, now looking back, it was right to kind of wait because the timing came along when Jürgen May got inside the job offer to join Iron as a brand manager. You know, Iron is also a part of our company. So they had the spot available of the product management and they had to cover it overnight. And so they needed a guy which knows how the industry works and so on. And you know how many guys there are around because you have basically everyone on the podcast. Now there's not so many. So I kind of had good cards in my hand. And I really enjoyed to join that. That was in 2013.
Yeah, because I heard the rumor is you said, well, I'm not coming unless I can bring Matteo Iuchino with me.
This is true. I mean, I was so sure that Matteo is going to be the future world champion, but there was Pierre Montefon already on the team as well. And we know how good Pierre Montefon is, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I would like to come, but can I not? And there was also the other thing. Baltimore is based in Munich. It's an Austrian company, but main office in Munich or outside Munich. And I'm Swiss, so I'm a freelancer because I also have my own company already back then. And it was always kind of how we do it in terms of being a freelancer or being based here and so on. And I kind of wanted to stay in Switzerland and as my base, and that was the kind of thing. But it was not a big argument. It was just about to work it out the right way. But the timing was perfectly to join this. And then Matteo, of course, also came along in the team, and then I had to change the t-shirt, which was really that was really hard, I would say. That was really hard, but it wasn't my own decision at the end of the day. I listened to all my friends and they all gave me inputs, what to do and so on. And at the end, you have to do your own decision, right? And it's 13 years ago, quite some time ago. But looking back, it was, of course, it was cool. Really good. Really good move.
Well, it turns out it's a good decision. Obviously, back then, it was Fanatic. So
Yes.
you've been through the full big change, which is obviously the name of Fanatic. Everything else, I'm guessing, stays the same. And for people who don't know, just in case, because I've heard Boards and More mentioned, for people who don't know, Boards and More is the big company behind everything. Is that how you explain it?
Boards and More is the big company behind everything. It has several companies like Iron. We have the Duotone wing section, like wing foiling, kiteboarding, windsurfing. We have Iron Bike, Iron Water, and we have Escolab, which is a bike company, and now Duotone e-foiling, of course. And then we have Woo, which is it's a big company. We're over 200 people now.
Yeah, and they obviously used to own Mistral, F2, and over the years, you know, that has been sold off. So when you moved to Boards and More, which was Fanatic, that side of it, obviously now, since then, we've now moved into Duotone. How was that whole process for you? Did you have a side to take? Because Fanatic is such an iconic name. And I still see the comments. When we put the Duotone video out, you know, from the factory, there was still a few comments that saying, you should have kept Fanatic, you know.
No, I agree. But, you know, but much cooler was when I changed the T-shirt from the F2 to the Fanatic T-shirt, because you know how many boards we sold and how big Fanatic was. Yeah. And all of a sudden I was so important, right? I was like, but last week I was nobody. Why do you want to go to lunch with me now? Like, I was like, so that was quite shocking, but it was okay. It's how it is, right? So and then in 2018 we launched Duotone, I think, right? Basically that whole company, Duotone as a kiteboarding brand, was already in the pipeline. Coming along, and as windsurfing is not the biggest part of the company, it was kind of the time to change. So the sales department, which was called North Sales, changed to Duotone already, and Fanatic stayed as Fanatic like it is. Yeah. So everybody in this house was running around with Duotone shirt, except me, Craig, and Kering and Klaas, who were wearing the Fanatic shirt. Very proud, of course, which is an iconic brand. 1981, we made the 40 years collection and so on, which I really like, which is an incredible brand, right? And I agree with the guys which complain that how could you do this and so on. But at the end of the day, for me, it was always important the people behind, because the people behind, of course, the end customer that always sees us because we are a little bit behind the scene, but the people stayed the same, and the production facility stayed the same. But to merge that whole thing going into one direction with the whole brand was kind of the right decision to do, I think, because you know how it is. We had a distributor meeting and there were 10 Duotone flags and there was one Fanatic flag, and we're like, why is there only one flag from us? And at the end we just put 10 Duotone flags on.
No, but I can imagine it gets harder with branding, gets harder with everything, because when they first announced it, obviously, like you said, it came from the sales first. So my understanding of the situation was Boards and More had licensed the name North Sales from North Sales to make the windsurfing brand. And again, I'm not sure of the details of that, but basically there was a point where they didn't want to pay that license fee anymore, or North didn't want to, or they charged more, or something happened. Is that what, you know, so that got changed.
Yeah, I mean,
and I thought
rich people want to get richer, right?
But I genuinely thought when they announced this, I thought, oh no, they are dead in the water. You can't change your name from North Sales to Duotone. I was like, there's no way this is going to go well. And then the more I thought about it, and when I saw them roll it out, they were saving, this is my understanding of it, they were saving a lot of money from the license fee so they could put that into marketing. And then the main thing that I realized after this whole thing was done was they weren't starting a new brand. And the main difference being they still had all the distribution. They still had all the shops. And this is what I saw with North when North came back, because they bought Mystic to gain distribution. So then I kind of, in a business sense in my head, I was like, okay, so the key is the distribution. If you've got the distribution channel set up, you've got the shops, you've got the same people behind the brand, you're literally just changing the name. And if you've got everyone singing from the same hymn sheet and telling everyone, it's actually not such a massive process in the end, you know, as big as I thought it would be, because I was thinking they were starting a new brand, which would have been start your whole new distribution, start everything, but they're not. They already had all that in place, which is the hard thing, I guess.
Actually,
sorry.
Oh, no, so you go, Daniel. I'll let you respond. Oh, no, I was just going to say, just from a marketing, branding thing, I'm curious, when it was changed from Fanatic, how much did that actually affect? Like, do you have any idea how many customers didn't transfer to Duotone just because they were so loyal to the Fanatic name? What did you have any idea or about that?
First of all, you can imagine that we were more scared than you can imagine, because like Ben just rolled out, this is what we were talking to our mirrors at night, making it sound reasonable, but okay. But to close down such an iconic brand there. And even for myself and for Craig and everybody here, it was really like, we were really scared for this move. Now looking back, we're like, yahoo, this is the best thing we ever did because we're such a marketing genius and so on. But back then, the risk, massive. I mean, it's massive. And it did work out really well. And as far I heard some stories that we are kind of the only brand in sporting history which changed their name, being at the number one brand, I would say, because Fanatic was still number one brand in the windsurfing industry in terms of sales. So why would you change the name, right? But looking back, of course, but you have to see it the other way, because the synchronization of the whole thing. Sometimes Team Rider were talking to the guy at the board division and then to the sale division, and the graphic designer for the boards made the board green and the guy for the sales made it blue. And then all of a sudden we had this meeting and it's like, why is it blue? Why is it green? So now everything comes like out of one hand. And I think this is also a really cool advantage for the customer at the end of the day. And I mean, of course, I like Duotone because I work here and I can create those dreams we want to create. But I do also understand guys which say this is shit. Goya is the greatest because they're also doing a fantastic job. Okay, so it's different.
But so basically, though, say you're a loyal Fanatic board customer for since whenever. When it changed to Duotone, I mean, most of those people just transfer to Duotone. Was it like, do you have any idea how many customers you may have lost because of that change? Or do you think that anyone who was a loyal Fanatic customer, they just basically transferred to become a loyal Duotone? Is that basically what happened? Do you know? Or
yeah, that's basically what happened, because we knew already from the sale change before, when it went from North to Duotone, it really got a boost, which is a positive effect. So we were hoping that the same will happen to the boards, and the feedback was really great. I mean, like the guys which were closer to the company, like local team riders, distribution and so on, they really liked it. And I think we transferred it quite nicely also to the public. Yeah, but you guys know better from the outside. I'm looking up to the inside.
I think you also kept the same names, like the Falcon or the, so it wasn't such a drastic change. If you'd have changed all the names, all the graphic, like there was no link at all, I think this could have been, harder to accept as well. But when you keep the same model names, I think this also really does help. Especially with the sales, I think as well, it was the same thing. You kept the same model names.
It's also with the kite side, that was also the same, that the models kind of stayed the same, because you know how it is. If you like this Duotone grip or the Fanatic grip, you can expect that you will like the Duotone grip, because it comes from the same guys out of the same hand with the different graphics, which of course scares the customer at the end a little bit less, I hope, from my perspective or understanding. But I think that for sure helped a lot, because definitely what you don't want is to launch a new brand with new designs from a new guy, which nobody ever tried. Like, no habits.
Yeah, I think Ben might have said it before, but that was, I think, one of the key moves was the fact that it was communicated that there was still the same people behind the brand. It was just that there was a name change. I think that was super important, because if you had a feeling that you were just dealing with a whole new team of people, then the whole loyalty thing probably would have gone for a lot of people.
Yeah. And we were able to keep the same team. I mean, of course, we lost like the team riders. We always kind of made sure we have very loyal team riders. I mean, Craig explained that already in his podcasts, and they were all ready to go on with the new brand, and that was really cool. And at the end of the day, also feedback, you know, when we had distribution meeting and so on, it was all presented already quite a while ago, and the feedback was really great. So we were hoping and that it also works in public, and I think it did.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So, and then obviously that's come big name change, and then more recently, as we've just put on the channel, you've actually changed the board factory, because obviously Fanatic was always produced in Cobra, Duotone were produced in Cobra, but you've now changed the factory. When did that come about? Because I actually didn't know that. I didn't, and someone said in the comments that there's only a couple of boards that have changed, but I think you told me the whole thing has changed.
Yeah,
is that correct?
So you have to see the whole thing kind of came together. So at Boards and More, the section were split up. So we had, before we had everything in one. So I was doing the SUP boards, product management for SUP boards, for the wing boards, for the windsurfing boards, etc. And then everything came so huge, especially the winging, that we had to separate it, right? So there was the wingboard section, the kiteboard section, and the windsurf section. And that kind of gave it a little bit more space, I would say, to go in different direction. And the wing foil department, those boards were made somewhere else pretty much from the beginning, when I was still in charge of that, okay? And then I had this factory which is run by, let's say like this, I mean, I was working with Cobra at Cobra for the last 20 years. So, you know, basically everyone from the old crew, I would say. So that guy opened his own factory, and I went to visit him once a year and so on. I was riding also boards from that factory, but they started very little, right? With a little thing. And you have to see that the volume we did, or we still do, not as much, of course, as in the past, but the risk to change a factory is so huge that I would never take the risk personally. So it had to go step by step and so on. And Cobra is a great factory, and they're making fantastic products. But as you see, as the market is kind of shrinking, we had to start looking at opportunity to be quicker and more responsive if something new comes along, if you need a new size and so on. So, okay. And on the other side also, there is this custom-made factories, like for example Flickr boards, which are doing also a fantastic job, and that really came to the next level. So remember when I said it was kind of from industrializing boards in hundreds and thousands coming from a mold into this Cobra thing with molded boards into this full custom technology which we are running now, and therefore we needed, or you needed, to kind of have a little bit smaller setup, I would say. Yeah. And what is really cool, to kind of own the setup. So it's not our factory, of course, but we have a contract with them that we are exclusive producing there. So that was a little start. And I know the guy which owns the factory since 20 years. So I have a lot of trust to this, but it went over the last 6 years, I would say, to come to this point where we are now. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So they do. So I was gonna say, they do all your wing boards and SUPs and everything, do they?
No, the wing boards still come from another place. We still do some wing boards there. It's a majority is windsurfing and some SUP boards, but mainly windsurfing. Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
So I found it super interesting watching the video, because that is more like a traditional custom, is it? Like, you know, CNC and then the custom. I was speaking to Lalo because obviously I watched the Cobra video as well, and that's a little bit of a different process. That's blow molding. I mean, I am literally amateur at this sort of stuff, so I don't really totally get it. But from the main differences is, like you kind of said, the first ones where you're sticking them together, that costs $100,000 to make the mold. So you've got to really know you're going to make a lot of boards. Yeah, you've got to make a lot of boards to make that worthwhile. And then in the Cobra, that mold probably costs what, a couple of grand, $3,000? I don't know.
Quite a bit.
I don't know, like how much is a mold? So it costs a bit of money. So you've got to make that mold. So then you've obviously got to, you know, you've got to put a few run through it to make it worthwhile. And you've got to make the mold. So that takes time. So I guess then you're at this point, like you say, you can make a smaller amount of boards because you're not tied down with a mold, and you can change stuff relatively quickly. So I'm guessing that's the payoff, is it?
That's the payoff. But the difficulty is that we still are kind of a big brand. And to combine this with kind of a custom setup was wild. So I was dreaming already about, we had some ideas to make it in our warehouse in Muln. We were dreaming about having it in Tarifa. But at the end, you need the people which create those products, because the handwork, that's what you see in the video, is the crucial thing, how to make them. And you need the skilled people, and we don't have time to teach the people, because you know how it is. Where is my board? Yeah, we have to teach the people first. Yeah, no. It has to run. So I started like 5-6 years ago. Jordi had custom boards to test. We had boards in winter for South Africa, for sailing and so on. And slowly we believed that there is a chance to do that. And then we started with this first kind of round with D-Lab boards, which we launched like a year ago, which were already made there, and took a little bit of the pressure, because we kind of had 1 year to see how that goes, and the feedback was really, really great. So we got a bit more confident, and
So I have a question. So I'm Cobra, you know, I'm giving you space in my factory, and you go, yeah, we're going to make some other boards in this other factory. Are they like, yeah, no problem? Or are they like, hang on a minute, what are you doing?
I mean, at the end,
that's a private question.
No, it's not a private question. At the end of the day, we are customer at Cobra. We're still making some boards at Cobra, but the facility or the setup there is a different one to what we have now. We wanted to have this custom section where we can produce those boards in a quantity we need them, of course. And what is also very cool, I mean, this is why we created that video around. I wanted to be able to the public how those boards are made. Okay, I mean, I saw all the comments about it, but we wanted to make it as rough as possible and with a little bit of polish to not make it look too bad, I would say, but that the real customer can understand how much handwork and how much love in each product goes in. And what is really cool is, like, as we are kind of the only guys in that factory, I'm able to see through that factory every day, because Vasin, which that's actually also very interesting, Vasin Shirinto is a guy when you are a Cobra, you always have one person taking care of you as a customer, like a brand coordinator. Okay, so in 2014, Vasin came to Cobra and was kind of my connection point to the factory. So you come to the factory, you get one guy, and you tell him the foot straps needs to go 2 centimeters further back. He takes a note, he goes to the factory and moves them. So I was able to teach him everything which is important to me until today, where it's kind of the same knowledge level as I am, I would say. And he's in Thailand, and he's there every day or every second day, walking through that factory as a customer, not as an owner. So when he spots something, he takes his phone, and I'm there with how's it called, with WhatsApp video call at the same time as it's happening. and this ways the whole thing kind of, that helps a lot, I would say, in communication.
Because it's interesting, obviously, dealing with all these companies, you do need to have someone on the ground who is knowing everything, because I always remember this story that Farrell O'Shea told me, different industry, clothing, but he sent this t-shirt mock-up and he'd gone, you know, label here with an arrow. And then the t-shirt came back and it said label here with an arrow, just totally printed out. And I thought, oh my God, if that's what you know, and because they're just doing exactly what you say. So I'm guessing you've got to be careful. You've got to know exactly. I'm sure it's not like that anymore. It was an old story.
No, but this is the beauty for myself now. It was a hell of a lot of work the last 6 years to help them going through that process to get where they are now. But looking back now, it's incredible to get that product at the end of the day, which is made the way you want it to do as well. Not saying that Cobra is doing it badly, right? Just there I can process every step and see every step we are going through. And if I want to have something changed, it's also my responsibility if it goes wrong, of course. But it's also the benefit if it goes well. Yeah.
So just what's the definition of a product? Sorry, man. What's the definition of a production board? I see a comment here mentioning production boards, but it was always because I know the PWA, you know, the brands use that as kind of advertising. That's what you want to do. You want to have riders winning. So how do you define a production board? Is it because it used to be you had to do a certain amount? Didn't have to be in a mold. It could be CNC'd then. It doesn't matter as long as it fits within the tolerances. Is that how it works?
Yes, that is how it works. I mean, for production boards, for example, slalom and so on, you had to do 20 to 50 boards, depends on the style, and then you have to offer them when the shipping happened and approval documents and so on. So that's with Cobra and so on. But you know, the main beauty now, it's kind of really to be able to create, as the windsurfing community got a little bit smaller, of course. It's still rendered quite big, right? But as it got smaller, it was time to take this kind of custom level to the next step, because otherwise you're just going to go to buy a product at your local shaper, of course, which we want to make sure is not happening thanks to our product.
But is it companies like Flickr that have pushed you to do that? Because that's pretty much, I'm guessing, a similar process. Again, I'm not involved in it, and I know they have been doing relatively well. I see them on the beaches. You know, is that fair to say?
I mean, have you ever had a Flickr board in your hand? I would have just ordered one. It's phenomenal. I mean, they did a fantastic job. They made the boards internally. They made the fins internally. They made everything there, and they know what they deliver. And the only difference is actually where we think we have a certain advantage. You can see it the other way. At for example, Flickr, you order a board, and you can choose the rocker lines and so on and so on. Okay.
Yeah.
So you get your product which you ordered. Of course, you can talk to the shaper and to the owner there as well, and he gives you the right board for your needs. Okay. But at Duotone, for example, we are still having the R&D with all our wave guys, Liam Dunkerberg and Victor Fernandez and everybody which is involved, also my side for the big boards and so on. And our products are made now like a custom board at Flick, I would say, because you will see from next year's collections on, we will also offer 3 different technologies and kind of customizing it a little bit, but you will see that a little bit later on. But we are offering you a branded product from Duotone. So if you buy a Duotone Grip 4 in an 88 size, it's the board which goes into the magazine test. It's the board which the local team rider rides at the beach. Okay. So basically, what you order here in our online shop is what the other guy is riding, and this for us keeps for a customer the resale value higher than if you buy it from a local customer. In my opinion, I mean.
No, I got you. It's a bit like that with surfboards, you know. I guess Like there's certain brands kind of really hold their value, and there's certain iconic names which, you know, the local shaper stuff or the other stuff is not so. It might be good, but it doesn't have that resale value.
No, but for example, Ben, if you would sell me your personal board, okay, and it's the Simmer board, 88 liter, dry wave, whatever, I go see the reports about these boards. Maybe somebody else has it as well. Say, this is a good board, I buy it, okay?
Yeah.
If you would tell me I have these custom boards, I gave it 3 millimeter more rocker and it has a bit more double concave and a bit more scoop because I wanted it like this, I said, no, thank you. And this is the thing. So
no, it's the same. The same what I was saying in surfing. I can get a firewire, blah, 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 and I know I can read the tests, understand what it is and go, right, that's what it is. Yeah. See, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
And we still have our World Cup team everywhere involved in all the disciplines like racing and so on. So we're constantly developing that stuff. And that's also a really cool thing. You know, before we had to have our own kind of development center, like, for example, like Quattro Goya does all their stuff in Maui, which is a fantastic setup, right? Cannery down the beach and let's go. But we don't have this. We're in the middle of Munich. And we are able now to produce all the prototypes at our own factory. And I can choose when I want them to be made. Because if I say, hey, now we do this today, we get this, and then we ship it somewhere or a guy goes to pick it up. And we actually testing products which we are afterwards selling to the customer, which is also kind of a really advantage for us, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. I've got to ask this because I think it's wrong if I don't. So you had to get rid of Pierre Mortifon, Marc Paré.
Here we go.
I know this is not an easy question, but man, how did it feel watching the next year pan out? Because those guys have been on fire. This is nothing to do with, you know, everyone knows they're good, but I just know for you personally, it must have been difficult because, you know, like you said, when you want your Kino to join back in the day, Pierre's already there. You know, he's been there a long time. You know how good he is. But, you know, there's obviously budgets. I'm guessing. I just thought it might be. It's difficult, isn't it?
It's a fair question to ask. I mean, this is how it is. And as the market is shrinking, you have to take certain action. But already back then, Matteo went to Starboard and Pierre stayed, luckily. This was already heartbreaking for me because I thought Matteo kind of, I got him on the Lake Garda on F2 and then brought him with me to Fanatic. And I was very proud. I didn't know Pierre that well back then because I just joined that Fanatic team. And then Matteo got this offer from Starboard, which was not so bad.
Chunky.
So he had to take it. He had to take it. So he left. So my heart was already broken once. And then the year after he got world champion, I was like, So that was already heartbreaking. And then next, Pierre got world champion 2019 on our board, which was like the biggest achievement in terms of slalom product because I had the freestyle thing under the belt, then I had the slalom one as well. And then Corona and everything came along, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it was more of a budget thing and not a personal thing. And to be fair, Pierre Montefon got a salary from us, which he really deserves to get. But I kind of also find it unfair to offer something which absolutely is under a sportive offer.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to let him go. And this is nothing personal because I'm a good friend of him, I would say. Or to all the guys which always have been on the team and leave the team. But this is just how things go. And this, of course it's hard. I mean, the Marc Paré thing was even harder, but what can you do? I mean,
and that's it, isn't it? Because people always ask. I'm like, well, you know, Boards and More, it's a big company. I'm guessing all big companies, they literally have very strict budgets and you've got to fit into those budgets. You know, I've tried to explain this to people. I just thought while you're here, it might be good just to Just to
No, at the
clear
end
a
of the
few
day,
things up.
we are the humans which have to make it happen, but we get the numbers from the guy up there, which creates and that this is the cake you have, and you can choose how you want to handle it. And I do understand also, of course, that the guys which are leaving or had to leave are upset and so on. And of course, that shitstorm last year was amazing. Hurted myself a lot because thinking how much I had in the pipeline and which is still coming, I can tell you now, and getting such a hammer from everybody, like, how could you do this? What are those idiots? Ah, la, la, la. Of course it hurts, but at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do. I mean, but where a door is closing, sometimes it's a door opening as well. So I mean, I think we did quite well this year, but
no, that's what I'm saying. So, but now, and then other people will say, well, you got rid of whatever last year, but now you signed this guy, you know? So it's like, but that's just how it works, isn't it? And it's interesting. Like we see it with football teams a lot. You know, players move out, everyone's like, oh my God. And then some new ones come in and then they prove themselves. So, you know, new kids on the block, you've got Dunkerbeck, and having a Dunkerbeck, you know, that's pretty cool anyway.
Couldn't believe it. I mean, this was historical for us. Like, you know, like looking at Bjorn, this is like my lifetime hero, having his son now riding for us. But it's a different time again. It's 1 year later. The cards were mixed again. Nobody ever saw Liam leaving Severn, but of course they also have a bunch of riders like other brands. So you kind of do play the cards. The same with the racing team. Like my heart is still into racing, and you know, Jordi Funk is on my side for many years. But I still like, he can do foiling good and he can do the fin good, especially the fin. And then you see a guy like Daniele Benedetti, and I was like, But we also had no budget to afford Daniele Benedetti. So we had to play around. Jordi got a little bit of a job at Duotone now, so he gets a bit of here, and then we were able to do this. So you also have to play the cards a little bit to make it happen.
My perception, Daniel, of Duotone is that it's a very clean cut brand. It's tightly managed. Everything is slick. It's, you know, it has every brand has an image, but the Duotone image, it has that sort of, you know, almost German type clinical nature to it. So when it comes to riders, does the business look to certain personalities and think, well, they're going to fit in with our brand image? Because, you know, how important is that, you know, as far as choosing riders and, you know, that sort of thing?
I guess it's a give and take, right? I mean, before we went online, I was talking to Ben. There's my Swiss hero, Balz Müller. I mean, that guy is absolutely nutcase, absolutely legend. As much he did for the sport, there's nobody else. I would say Kyle Ennis, all-time hero, Levi Cyber, and then there's Balz. I mean, that guy made so much for the sport. But I'm not sure how much he would have helped me in developing the stuff. But you can use him for other stuff. Of course, he's also very good in developing wing stuff and so on. But who could he help me in the racing board department? Probably not. In the freeride boards department, probably not. So you have to kind of make it equal. And what I really like, or what is Duotone really about, is we are looking like in long-term corporations that also Craig was always a big fan of, and I'm also a big fan of, because I kind of like to have everything like a family combined, that everybody knows what to do and which jobs to take on. Marco Lang, for example, also as a product manager, going to the events, listening what they're telling on the beach, bring it back to us, because we are a huge company, but at the end of the day, we are very small and compact and very good connected. So we do have to make sure we're not missing trends or upsetting customers or missing anything. Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah, no, I was like Danny just saying, we were talking about Balz before, because, you know, like he's one of my heroes, 100%. But I said the same thing. It was quite interesting. I was like, have you ever thought of signing him? Was it in the cards? And, you know, there's a lot of brands out there. Like, there's characters in the windsurfing market, which I think you could only use them for a certain aspect. and because windsurfing is smaller and budgets are tighter, you've got to pick ones with where you can get the most from it. But you know, some are more higher towards certain things. Bowles is definitely. I said to Danny before, I would just have him pure marketing, let him do his thing. Don't even worry about it. He has some crazy ideas. Some of them things you'd have to put in. Ricardo Campello's another one, you know, is famously not able to get sponsors sometimes. And he is one of those guys that could you see on Duotone? I don't know. It just doesn't like, and I'm not saying it wouldn't be a thing, but it just doesn't align somehow. I don't know why. And I think it's like that in a lot of sports. There's certain riders which have this thing.
What do you think, Daniel? Would you like to manage Ricardo on a daily basis?
Yeah, for breakfast, but not during daily business. I highly appreciate his sailing skills, and he's a character which the windsurfing industry needs. And I thought it was phenomenal when he came back last year in Gran Canaria with his outside sponsors, where everybody's like, how did he manage this? Mine, hands on. This was amazing how he made it, and also well deserved. The guy's a legend, right? Like Philip Costa and all the other guys too. But I can give you a little bit one. I get you, Paul Müller. I promised myself to not tell many stories I should not tell, but that one is actually fun. So I know Paul since many years. Okay, so we meet in Silvaplana every year, and it's a few years back. And every year I tell him, you know, there's this one day coming where our company will call, and then you're going to take the offer. I said, okay.
You're dangling a carrot in front of him. He's waiting.
I've been saying the same thing to Bowles.
1 year later, he was in Silvaplana again. I said, Bowles, the carrot is going to come. And when it's coming, you're going to take it. I promise you. You have 5 years of Joe Stone, and then ciao, okay? Because he's the Joe Stone of this decade, I would say, okay? So all of a sudden, our guys were like, we need Bowles Müller, okay? So he came to our head office, and the whole crew was sitting there. Brand manager windsurfing, brand manager wing department, kite, and our CEO, okay? So they rolled out the red carpet to the end of what's possible. And I just heard it. I wasn't there myself, but our CEO said in the middle of the opening speech, like, I want you. You are the coolest guy out there. And he turned down the offer.
What was the offer?
He was here.
How much was the offer?
It was, should have taken it. And I think now he's still crying that he didn't do it.
How long ago was this?
5 years, I would say. 5 years. That was a good carrot. And it was the perfect time because it was the freestyling, windsurfing, foiling, the whole thing. It was I was like, Bowles, now take it, carrot. He took it out. That's it.
That's why we love Bowles, though. You cannot predict what that guy's going to do. You know, love
soul, man. He's a true soul. I mean, it's highly respect that he didn't take it, and he's going his way with Ensis, which is a phenomenal brand as well. And he's doing incredible. He has 2 kids now. He plays every day with the wing, new trick here, new trick there. The guy is amazing.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I look forward to his videos on wherever, YouTube or Instagram. I'm always entertained. I'm always like, whoa, he's like you say, he's got 2 kids. I've just got another kid, so we got 2 now. I can't even imagine how he's so doing everything. Ridiculous. So you've signed new riders this year. I've just seen, actually, just because before we came online yesterday, I actually saw Vincent Wagner is leaving Neil Pride, JP. Is he not going to Duotone? That's not the rumor. No.
Maybe.
I heard. You know. I actually saw a picture of him on Patrik. So it's
rather Patrik or we won this year, I would say. They have somehow more budget than we have. I'm started printing, but no, I mean we had a few signs this year, of course, and the guys we already had in the team, because this is kind of a sad thing on one hand, on the other hand, but looking at the rider like Victor Fernandez, okay, he's with us since feels like
Ever.
forever.
Yeah.
And
20 years.
are you ever going to kick out a guy like Victor Fernandez? The guy is sailing like a king. This guy is really good helping development stuff, and the guy is just an amazing guy.
Yeah.
So that guy is kind of set it at Duotone, right? Boom. So and the guy is there. So to add new people, you have to get rid of some guys, but you cannot get rid of a Victor Fernandez, and you also don't want to get rid of a Victor Fernandez.
It's super true. And what's your boys' take on the speed and the GPS stuff? Because, like I said, I just heard a few rumors that, you know, a lot of the top guys at the moment are on Neil Pride. You know, Hans Kreisel's on Neil Pride, Vincent Wagner, Antoine Albo. I've heard rumors that he is, you know, I don't know. I just hear rumors, and I'm thinking, how true are these rumors? Is this just like, you know, are there openings, let's say, in the speed market? And if there are Duotone going to get involved? Because I know when you were back with F2, there was a thing, F2, what does it stand for? Fun and function. And then the big drive came when it was fucking fast or whatever that was. And they went down the speed route. I actually loved that angle. I thought it was quite fun. So what about Duotone? What's the crack on speed?
So we are kind of spreading in every direction at the moment, because now first, for the last 5 years, I would say it was setting up the factory. And now we're focusing on waveboards, and we also had Kai Hopf designing our own software to design the boards. This is also a new thing which we implemented there. And now, as we don't need to make molds anymore, all of a sudden I was finally able to make a new collection of slalom boards, which are coming out in autumn, and every size will be new. So that was the kind of thing which I was always hoping we could achieve someday, because, you know, when you had to invest in molds, the 90 liter always stayed the same, because there's low numbers on 90, and you also don't want to have the 100 made in the mold and the 90 made in CNC, because there are quite of differences. So now we are able to do this, and there will also be speedboards, and there will be Literates edition for this year where Jenna is going to go again. So we're also putting some force on that side, and I would say in all the fields.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, Jenna absolutely smashed it. I mean, she is now officially the fastest woman in the world. But when we've seen her on the slalom course, I always say to all the girls, I say to Sarah Keita, I'm like, come on, we want to see you go, and the guys as well. When's, you know, the big slalom boys, let's say, the younger ones, let's say Pierre, Giacchino, you know, Jordi, Bruno, when are these guys going to go to Luderitz? Is it interesting? I mean, it's a lot of money, and obviously, are you going to sell a load more speedboards? Maybe not, but in terms of giving your brand that kind of speed exposure and fast image, I think there's quite a lot of marketing there.
That's true. And having said that, Ben, looking back, we will remember that podcast now. Have you seen, of course, you were commentating, the new guy on Duotone, Guadeloupe guy?
Oh, yeah. My brain's, hang on. Fortune.
Yes. That guy will be the next superstar.
Yeah.
I tell you that much. Not saying Sasha because he's on Duotone now, but I've been in Tenerife finishing the boards with Jordi, the development, and Sasha was already involved. That guy stands on the board like the other top blokes. And the guy is young and wild. And I was so happy that in Tenerife during the training, I was watching it like daily when they were racing. You saw the difference between that guy. This is the new guy, I'm sure. And it's really cool.
For sure. I saw him. I went to the IFCA Worlds. Is it Worlds or Europeans? Worlds in Denmark. I did an interview. Actually, I didn't release it in the end. Just because it all got waylaid, but I did a long interview, really interesting actually, and you can just see he's dominant, man. And there's some good guys in that youth division, and he smashed it. Super keen on the fin as well.
Sorry, I just lost connection, so I missed it. Who are you talking about?
Sasha Fortune.
Okay.
He's
Cool.
a
You will hear that name
up-and-coming
again.
guy. Yeah, young up-and-coming guy from Guadeloupe. So he's got a few sort of role models. Won the IFCA World Youth Championships last year. It was the first I saw him on the PWA last year, and he had moments. And when I'm commentating, I don't know always the ages of these guys or where they come. You just see the name. So you're like, I don't even know who the guy was at one point. And he's challenging for all these top fours. And you're thinking, oh, he's come out of nowhere and he's already pushing. And then he obviously wins the Youth World, and then he was doing pretty good in Guadeloupe in a few of the races. So, and he's super young. I mean, how old is he? 18?
19.
19.
The guy is a fucking legend. I tell you, that guy will come like a rock star.
Well, if you picked Matteo Yukino young, so.
But I lost him before the World Champion title. At least I made the board for Pierre to win it. So okay.
Just sorry, it's just another question. You obviously have got your name there as a Duotone product manager. So you're windsurfing, but you're doing other categories, or is it just windsurfing?
You mean in that company here?
Yeah, you said you're a product manager, but are you also being a product manager for other divisions?
No, we have
winging or kiting.
No, we have different product manager for each sections, but we're working closely together because some factories are overlapping, and it's a really cool crew here at Duotone. So yeah, we're very well connected. Let's say like this.
Okay.
So, and I'm the longest one,
and so
I think I'm the longest one here. So
okay, cool. And what's the state of the windsurfing market as far as you see it? Because Ben and I often talk about, the windsurfing world, and obviously we've got now winging, and kiting's been around now for 25 odd years. And supping, that had a boom, and that obviously sort of come off the boom. Yeah. So where are we at with the windsurfing industry, I guess, if you want to?
I think you can go to the spots where windsurfing is really meant to be or happening. Like you can go to South Africa, where I spent my winter, where it's full on, or you go to Tenerife in February, where the centers are flooded with people and the bay is full, or depends where you go, of course. But I think windsurfing got a little bit more specific over the last few years, and definitely in Europe here, thanks to the light wind ability of the winging, of course. That took a light wind windsurfing market share. This I'm sure, This I'm sure. This I'm sure. But in general, I don't think we are looking bad. I mean, the guys which are amped, and also looking at the slalom, there was a slalom racing last year in Turkey with over 100 juniors at the starting line. I'm not so worried about the sport in general. We just have to be prepared for the future, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. And what do you? Oh,
no, carry on.
Oh no, I was going to say, how's it going with the winging and kiting divisions? I mean, winging, I'm assuming, is still on a bit of an upward trajectory. Kiting, what's happening in the kiting world? Is that gone through the same thing as windsurfing? Growth, boom, hits the top, and it kind of comes down a bit of another end. What's happening there?
I think it's pretty stable. The kiting, the winging, of course, is still increasing. The kiting is very stable. And you know how it is. Windsurfing also is not the easiest sport to learn, so that's why we also try to make it more accessible with Eagle One, which is launched to the market, which is kind of one board goes with in your progression from the start to planing, I would say. But at the end of the day, it's also on our side of the industry to help sport grow again. But the options are endless, right? So I'm also kiting myself. I like that as well, if the wind is light, for example, and the waves are up. So I think each sport has his niche, I would say.
Is there anything that's not happening right now in the windsurfing world that you think should be happening to help it grow? Can you think of anything?
No, I always see from two sides of perspective, right? One is the perspective of the production setup, which we are achieved now to have, that we are ready to always produce what the market is asking for in a quicker kind of environment. Because you know how it is, certain trends you need to follow up when making all the molds, and development in separate factories always took a little bit more time. But at the end of the day, I think the products we have for windsurfing now are incredible in any kind of discipline.
But I mean, what you're talking about, the production of products, but I mean, actually generating the demand, like the people, growing the sport. I mean, is there something that you would think, well, this is what we should be focusing on to help the growth of the sport? Can you think of anything there? What's your perspective on that?
I mean, what I see, the problem about windsurfing in general, as stronger the winds gets, as more fun it is for everyone, right? And you still see at Lake Garda, for example, the courses for entering people, the courses are still full of people, but to get them connected and stay at the sport is more difficult. And I think what is really cool, we are having, I think, 13 or 15 Duotone centers around the world, which always have kind of the latest equipment. If I would be like a customer today, I would book a last minute flight to Tenerife, to TWS, so the Duotone Center, rent 1 week the latest material and go and give it all. I think, you know how it is, the world is changing a little bit. And of course, guys which live in the north of Germany, where there's once a week strong winds for wave riding, of course they buy a new waveboard. But for guys like me, for example, in Zurich or in Munich, I rather fly to Tenerife, rent one and shred there. I think there's many perspectives to look at it.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting that you mentioned the test centers, because I agree. I think having an opportunity for people just to have a go without having to commit to buying everything straight up as well, because that's a bit of a stumbling block, isn't it? I've had friends here that say, I want to give it a go. What should I buy? And you're like, well, yeah, right now you just need to learn to uphaul and do a tack. So let's not worry. You know what I mean? Like there's that initial step of just getting them onto the board without them necessarily thinking they have to invest a hell of a lot of money, which can be scary for people. I just a bit of a segue, but this might be interesting to you. I used to be involved in the bicycle business, and I was in with a particular brand, and there was a trend in the bicycle business at the time. This is going back 10, 15 years, where the brands themselves would actually open up what do they call it? Experience centers. That was the one it was called. And so this particular brand I was dealing with, they literally just had this beautiful showroom that was in the middle of the Netherlands, because I got them from the Netherlands. And every model of every size, every model, there was literally thousands of bikes in this thing. And if you were interested in this brand, you could go to this experience center that had like a bicycle track. You could try any bike you wanted in any size. There was no cost. And obviously that was a great way to just get people onto the bikes and potentially buy their product. So anyway, I think that those Duotone centers that you have, I think they're very important for getting people into the sport and continuing to do so, I would have thought.
They're important for everything, kind of. As it doesn't matter if they are from Duotone or from other brands, but of course for us it's a really benefit as well. And we're trying to streamline the lines of product also as small as possible, so a customer can go and say, I'm more the free ride guy, I'm more the free race guy, in all the sizes, and then go from there. But this is where you catch the people, I would say, even they haven't been windsurfing for 5 years. They go to Lake Garda, they walk on the beach and say, oh, there's a center, bam. And they have the latest gear.
I think that's key.
It's very key. And those centers have everything. So they have the wings, they have the kites, and they have the windsurfing. So you can go and play. And if the wind is stronger, of course you go windsurfing. If the wind is super light, you take a wing, of course.
You go windsurfing.
Or windsurf foiling. No, Ben, you're not going to go windsurfing in 8 knots. You don't.
You'd be surprised. No, I'm kidding. No, but I think it's good, man. It's good. And again, you want people to have a good experience. I think the logistics in windsurfing is the killer. Like, this is for most people, like for the diehards like me, Paul, you're like, yeah, whatever. We buy a van, we fucking stack it full, you do whatever. But most people, they want to, like my missus, she'll go windsurfing and she'll enjoy it. But if I tell her she's got to put the board on the roof, put the sails in the thing, go rig the sail and go windsurfing, she don't love it that much. Like she loves it generally, but that extra bit of faff is not what most people want. They just want to go to the beach, and if you hand her it, she'll fly around for an hour and have a lovely time, and really enjoy it. But it's
Benny, does she love it? Does she Huh? So I was going to say, does she love it when the two-piece mast is stuck together? She's got to grab an end.
Exactly. Putting the down all on. You know, like all the things that we don't even think about anymore to a certain degree. It's like it's quite hard work for a lot of people.
Check in the boat backs.
Interesting. Yeah, well, exactly. Fly into another spot. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm jealous of Thomas Traversa because he seems to be able to get away with one board. Like I think
and 4.2 and 3.7.
Yeah, but we talked about it on the podcast. It's like when you get bigger, and I'm not that big, but bigger guys, it's even harder. They need even more gear somehow. The way it works. It doesn't size up like. You can't just size it like a small guy. If you're 60 kilos, you can pretty much have a board that floats and is controllable in wind. Whereas if you're a big guy, let's say nearly 100 kilos, for a board to float you and be good, it's quite difficult. But I think definitely good though.
But that's what you see in waveboard development at the moment as well. The boards got a little bit bigger, so they're more versatile in lighter winds, but still turn really well. I think we saw that.
They've definitely got. I really think the boards have got better. 100% with that.
Much better. Much better.
I was going to ask you. So if you put in Dani Aeberli on Google, you get radio controlled aeroplanes as well as obviously your history, your windsurfing, and that's quite a big thing because obviously I know you're quite into that, or you're listening to what you said earlier. It was your dad's involved in that.
Yeah, my dad was
had
involved.
a fin company called Choco Fins, and I'm seeing this Choco logo on the aeroplane. So I was just wondering, this is not for anyone else. I'm just genuinely interested what the deal is with all that.
Back then with F2, we needed a certain fin brand, fin whatever. We didn't have fins, right? So we started to make fins also together with Patrik still, and we didn't know how to call them. And all of a sudden we had this brand called Choco Fins, and we made the fins, especially freestyle fins and all the fins for F2. And I keep making them. And now the fins are still there, but we relabeled them now. They moved into the Duotone kind of lineup where we are making. I made this spring until now. We made our own fin factory in the board factory. So that will come up as a next step. We will have a full fin collection provided to the boards and so on. And then there was those gliders started to be created. My dad did a few gliders, and I was looking for production facilities in Czech Republic and so on, and found one. And then we started with one plane, and then second plane, and then we created a brand, and we didn't know how to call it, so it was Choco Fly. So that was that is it. It is, and now it's it's really well. It's really good.
It's doing good.
Oh, right. So you basically also involved in that business. That's a secondary job.
Yeah, this is kind of my own company. I started with making racing gliders. There's kind of this racing discipline with really big gliders. And I never got to be world champion in windsurfing. So at least I got world champion in racing the gliders. yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I started in 2015, and then I got world champion in 2019, and ever since, myself or my gliders won the world championship. So it's really cool.
That's
a really cool thing.
Man.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I didn't know.
That's amazing, mate. Yeah.
It's
because they're big.
You're multi-talented.
They're
big.
Small.
They're between 5 and 9.5 meter wingspan. Yeah, they're huge. Yeah. And we develop everything for it: technology, electronic engines. I have a whole team behind it, and it actually got quite big now. Yeah.
I have to look. How do you spell chocolate?
Choco.
I'm gonna look it up online now.
Now it's even worse. If you want to have a racing plane, you can hate my brand as much as you want to, but you need to have one. It's
one of them.
It's that bad. And I tried to achieve the same with Duotone.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a bit like the Patrik foil at the moment.
Yeah, it's a bit like this.
Here we go.
Yeah, look at that thing.
My God, mate, you could put your
Yeah, they're big.
Cat in
They're
that. Is it? Oh my God, look at these things. This is epic.
God. It's mad, isn't it? No, I always seen it.
How much does one of these gliders cost?
Some posts.
Between 5 and 20 grand. Well, something like that.
Wow.
Ah, it's cool. It's cool. And it's
Duotone
kind of the
gliders.
same. Not yet.
Oops, sorry.
But it's kind of the same technology, right? Fins are made in the way those gliders are made and so on. So there's a lot of connection between those two worlds, which, yeah, very benefiting for both.
You know,
Cool, man.
it's funny, Daniel, because sometimes I'll have a YouTube binge, and YouTube will recommend whatever's going on, and it's surprising how many times I get recommended RC airplane videos, and then you click on them. Yeah, you click on them, and they'll just have millions of views. It's obviously quite I don't know. It's quite a popular thing for people just to view on YouTube or something. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but. People have these like massive scale ones, like the planes just seem to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
We have quite a famous YouTube channel as well, which my friends make videos of the gliders as well. So that's really cool.
Oh.
But it's cool because if there's no wind, you go fly. If there's wind, you go windsurf. It works.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
And I guess you're up in the mountains or whatever. So
It's probably
Thermal
air,
lift is
cold
kind
air,
of the whole thing.
thermals.
Yeah. I also have customers from Australia as well, from Perth. Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Oh, okay.
And I also back then I had
that's cool. It's probably
glider in Perth.
Oh, right. Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's super interesting.
I've been thinking about this podcast, but I haven't planned it.
Oh, do you want
match? Go on.
Yeah. Oh no, sorry, mate. There's a bit of a delay, so you keep going.
No, I was going to say at the end of the podcast, Matchet used to do like that quick fire, even though it wasn't very quick fire. But there was some certain questions. But before we do that, I'll wait a minute. Go on, Paul.
Well, I was just going to say, should we just go through some of there's a few questions.
Yeah.
For Daniel. So can we just do the comments? Because people have been very patient. Mango Tree, as a lot of manufacturing gravitated to Cobra, how much cross-pollination between brands happened there? How could innovations be shielded from other brands, or is it basically the great unifier?
It's actually a good question.
There's a lot of positive things, a lot of negative things, especially when it was much bigger. Of course, it was very hard to protect new innovations when you were making them. And there was also kind of the thing is like if another brand had something and you wanted to have it as well, and if you were bigger than the other, you kind of had a bit of power to get it, right?
Okay.
So that's what I actually like now, having my own factory. I would say I don't have to hide. I can just create and see where we're going. It's like, for example, probably the same when I don't know what the Quattro Goya guy is doing in Maui because I can't see it, right? But at Cobra, they have a really nice protection system and they really take care. Nothing gets handed to each other, so they're doing this really well. But I don't think you have a really advantage unless you bring it in yourself, I would say. Or I can make for example, the public freeride boards, which are produced, what's called ASA or original, or however you want to call them, in this standard look, in this kind of normal weight, which a normal freeride customer gets at a really good price, right? That layup at Cobra always has been an industry standard, which I think it's really fair because the JP board is not better made than our one. It's made in the same way. It costs more or less the same. So the only benefit is which shape is better. But now I was able to break out of that box and create a board in a similar technology for the same price, which will be 800 grams lighter than the previous board we had, okay? Which has a huge advantage for the customer. And I think now we are at that stage at windsurfing where it's really important as a brand to be a little bit more individual because it's not as big anymore as it was 10 years ago. Does make sense? Something like that?
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Well, the next comment here, Duffer Call, he's got a comment here just saying, I think it was a smart move to keep some graphical continuity between Fanatic and Duotone when the brand name changed. So we did touch about that before. You know, it was cool that you guys continued with the heritage of Fanatic and brought it over.
I mean, the heritage
Duotone. So
in
that was
us,
a comment
right?
from.
We are still those guys. So we just had to change the shirt.
Mango Tree, he's come up with a suggestion for a name. Fuonotic would have been a consensus solution for the that's the combination of Fanatic and Duotone.
I tell you one thing: if you ever have free time and don't know what to do, try to find a name for an international company.
Yeah,
just
it's tricky, isn't it?
It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
Well, what I've been through this on my own.
Oh, I see.
What
you
you
mean
realize is the names just become iconic from time. Some of the most iconic names, brands in the business, if you really look at the name, they're shit. They're sometimes the worst names ever. But because of the heritage, because of the work they've done, because of the products, they've just become a brand. I mean, look at Apple. If I said to you, we're going to call this company Orange or Apple, I mean, Orange, there is a company called Orange as well. But you're like, it's actually rubbish, isn't it? Like, you think there's nothing in it, but they've created what they've created with it. I think it's, a name is, a name is not much.
Yeah, it's just what you associate with the name, isn't it? There's a name and it's the association you make with it. You know, I think that's the, which comes with time. Andre Ust, is the D-Lab type of boards all from the new company, as I understand it, correct? Is this why the D-Lab custom type of boards is as custom is hand layup?
Yeah, it's the first collection which came out, right? And it's the D-Lab product is always kind of we have 3 levels of constructions at Boards & More or at Duotone. It's the D-Lab, the SLS, and the original. It's in terms of price and how the value, how it's built, and the D-Lab is always the top level. So we started there with the new factory in the first year, and now 2026, everything else will follow. Yeah. There will be, I'm really excited to share soon the new collection. We really made a big move, I would say, in terms of product look and options we are offering. Yeah, we'll see that.
Okay,
and,
this is
and
not...
go, Benny.
No, I was just, sorry to butt in. So you're a little bit delayed. I hope this doesn't come out bad, but the name D-Lab, I come from a time where, like, it is for me an unfortunate name, and I don't know who come up with it, but it's just slightly too close to D-Lamb. And when I heard it the first time, I was like, crap. And I've heard a few people tell me that. That's why I bring it up, not just because I'm trying to, but you've got to be careful because when you say, "Oh, we've got a D-Lab," and it's like, "Oh man," that's. I think you've got to be careful. Anyway,
the idea. We have downstairs.
What does it mean? That's what I was going to ask.
Duotone Laboratory. We have downstairs here in our facility here in Munich. We have about 100 square meter of testing area with the latest machines, where we're testing raw materials, especially in kiting and so on, and our own crew developing. And that kind of studio was called D-Lab.
The D-Lab.
All the new stuff came out of there. And then how it is, we're sitting on the table again. We have to have this premium collection. How are we going to call it? Premium. So it's like, call it D-Lab.
Okay.
That's where it comes from. Yeah.
No, that's good to know. I genuinely didn't know. I was thinking, I wonder where it's come from.
Would you mind, Daniel, just in a pretty quick fashion, just quickly explain what are the differences between the 3? You know, like, is one more durable, lighter? Obviously, there's different price points. I mean, what is the category
So the original is the best product you can get in terms of strength and value, I would say. So like if you don't know which one to choose and you are a normal guy going free riding, you take an original or classic. It's just called the name of the board, basically. Okay. Then we have the SLS, which is kind of the next level up, mostly full PVC sandwich boards in S-glass construction with some carbon fiber, for example, which is kind of the go-to board, I would say. If you don't know which one to choose and you kind of, I go every weekend and I'm fully on it and so on, this is kind of your board. And then we have the D-Lab, which is actually in terms of technology, strength and weight, industry, how's it called? Benchmark, I would say.
Okay.
It's actually the coolest product
top of the line
for a product manager to make, because it's not always that you have to look at costs. So you basically can just make it, and then the customer can decide if he wants to buy it or not. And if we, the three of us, we go to the beach, I would bring 3D legs, of course.
Okay. So that's the one you want. That's the premium.
So Andre, I'm not sure if we touched this before, but how is the control for serial PWA IFCA serial boards as its custom layup?
So the factory has to sign certain
Did we touch
documents
on
that
or?
they are produced to a certain specification of the layup, and the layup is drawn on a spec sheet, and that spec sheet also has to be handed in with the weight, average weight, and so on, and then they check this. So I don't think there's anybody cheating those days.
Yep. A comment here from Recreation. I mean, we may have already touched on this. What about young people? It is really hard for them to get into the sport, windsurfing slalom, because of the cost. Any programs in mind to support the young generation?
I actually think there is enough gear around from previous seasons from Rider, which gets handed out. And I know, for example, Vincent Langer is a good friend of mine, the German top racer. He organizes a kids camp every year in the north of Germany with 100 competitors or 100 kids which go there. And if there is need for some second-hand gear or slalom and so on, there will always be a solution for the next generation. I'm not really worried there. Of course, a new board those days cost 3,000 euro, but 20 years ago, it also costed 3,000 Deutschmark. So it was, the products were always expensive, but that's how it is.
Yeah, there's some good second-hand market. That's what people, you know, like everyone, and I'll say this to a lot of people, I'm pretty open with them. Say, look, if you've got the money, there's nothing better than getting a new windsurfing board. Like, it's like anything. A new bike, a new surfboard, everything new is friggin' cool and exciting if you've got the money. If you haven't got the money, yeah, maybe you save up for those one-off, maybe you get one board 1 year and maybe you buy a boom, you know, but for the others, there's so much fun shopping around on the second-hand market, and there is some absolute gems. Like, I've started this WhatsApp community, and we've got this water speed group, and I guess a few people have come from Windsurfing TV who are not really into speed, they're not really into racing, they've not even got the boards. And I've noticed on this group, there's just every so often there's posts popping up going, oh, I've just bought this, and they've bought some older slalom board or older, like, you know, sort of torpedo looking board. And they've just gone, you know what? It's a couple of €100 or whatever it might be. And they can go fanging on the lake and try and get some speeds on it. And I think that whole GPS thing has been big for a while, but I think this kind of recreational GPS style, you know, where you're not really you're not trying to beat the top guys. You're not trying to set world records. You're not trying to set national records. You're just literally going and having fun with your mates and just thrashing around, because that's what most of us probably do anyway. And I think this can start to rejuvenate that second-hand market, because I think boards be interesting to hear your take. How far can you go back and still get a decent board for flying around on? It's quite far. If you're not talking about racing, you're not, you know, there's obviously, if you got the money, new boards are epic. But there are some, you know, for the person to buy a new board, they've got to sell their old board. So, and I always say this to people, I said, look, you know, Simmer don't mind me promoting secondhand stuff, because what essentially happens is those guys sell their board and then they buy a new board. So we've got to have that circle of life going on.
I think it's definitely worth to buy a second-hand board of a really good company instead of buying a new board for a very cheap price, which is lying at the shop for some time. But it depends on the style. I mean, 5 years is nothing, right? So
yeah,
that's basically what we're. There's the local team riders which are changing every year. Always want to have the latest one, and the rest, I would say, a normal consumer swap is like 5 years time. And it's not that you recognize every year the improvement on the product. It's more that after 5 years, if you buy something new, definitely find a difference between the products.
Yeah, and obviously everyone's on different cycles. You know, that's what I say that to people. It's like, why are they bringing a board out? You would go, well, maybe, you know, this guy is not in the year of his new board, but maybe the other couple of guys, it's their year. You know, and it happens like that. You kind of, not everyone's in perfect sync, like, so it kind of works.
Pen Bled has got a question here. Have you already talked about board production? Well, yeah, we have earlier in the podcast, so you might just have to go back after this. Another question he's got, what about producing in Europe close to the main market, and what about hollow boards? Any comments?
Also, first of all, is the handworking skills from the Thai guys, which work at Cobra or in our factory, is so phenomenal good. It's not really about labor is one thing, of course, labor cost, but it's also about the skilled people to make the boards. I'm not sure. I mean, Flick are proven that they can produce board in direct sales to customer in Europe, but I would not recommend to open a factory here in Germany and try to sell it to someone. I think it's just the cost problem. And the hollow board thing, I mean, it's been touched from F2 1993 or something like that for the first time, produced in South Africa. And it made troubles all the way through what we saw in the last few years, I would say. It's, I think, the best product you can get in the world, a hollow board. But if it's going to hold for long term and also in terms of production costs, I don't think the sport is.
I'm a bit out the loop. What happened to Patrik's hollow boards? Does he still produce them?
I don't know, but I don't think so.
No, I haven't paid much attention to it.
I mean, they were phenomenally made, right? But but the cost to buy one or to produce one is so incredibly high that all of a sudden, I think like a D-Lab construction at the end of the day, it's in terms of price and value almost a bit more customer friendly.
Yeah.
Arnold Source, he's got a question. Things seem to be changing. Duotone build video with custom build process, simmer and future fly maybe, but kinetics flicker thoughts. I'm not sure if I completely understand the question here, but you're obviously talking about the videos that have been coming out. I'll simmer at kinetic flicker. Yeah, okay. Well,
it's not the same process.
We have sort of touched a bit on that. Obviously, there's different factories. Yeah, different factories. I mean, do you have anything to add to
different
this
factories,
comments,
different
Daniel,
styles? Different factories are different styles. As far I know, the Simmer and the Future Fly are both made at the Kinetic factory. I don't know actually, to be honest, but I think they are there, and they are making very good products. But I don't know in which kind of style they are making them, so I don't want to step into the dark there. And Flickr pretty much makes it, as far I know, like we do it, and I think they did an amazing job. Yeah.
Matt Hanson, got a lot of comments. You'd be popular, Daniel. A small free race board's not very popular. Most free race sizes always seem huge for most people. Even Ben's small Simmer Monster is 70 wide. I have a 94 Jag. It's about the only one out there.
Well,
that's why we made it.
Well, that Simmer Monster 70 is actually wide. But I've got a small slalom board, which is still not massively, it's still not tiny. It's 62, is it? 60 whatever for a 94, I mean 96 litre slalom board. And obviously you boys do a smaller one than that. What's your smallest slalom board?
94 is the jet, the free race, and the 90 is the slalom. And the 90-liter slalom board is so optimized on high wind, means a lot of control, that I would say a lighter guy can also use it as a free race board. They are really good to control, I would say.
Recreational slalom windsurfing asks, when will we see D-Lab masts?
Platinum, they called. I think we at the Duotone mast, let's say, range, we already had the highest one, which was called Platinum, I think, and Aero, the lighter one. I don't think there is a D-Lab coming, and if it's only a relabeling, so the technology is already there.
There's a comment here. The custom D-Lab could have a sturdy option, even if it's 500 grams heavy. But I'm assuming that's like the SLS.
Yeah.
Was that what? Would that be?
Yeah.
So there is that option. What other comments? Martin Stevenson, are your fins produced at Cobra? But you have actually touched on that. You actually make the fins in your own factory.
Yes, this is coming now. Right? So this is a changing thing. Last year we made them somewhere outside and a Cobra, and now we are having our own fin department. Yeah, that was kind of the next process to be implemented.
Yeah. And finally, the last comments here, question or comment. Following Ben's idea about weight-based slalom competitions, are you making any custom boards for light riders?
The girls are kind of lighter, and for them we specially developed kind of the middle sizes, and we did that again now. So there is the slalom range for the, let's say, heavier guys, and there's the slalom range for the lighter guys. And for 2026 we will have the whole lineup brand new for every weight, every weight class.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Thanks for getting through that. It was quite a lot of comments there, so that was cool. So what do you reckon, Ben? Did you want to try and do a quick fire?
Well, I was going to do a quick fire. It's probably not. No, I think we've had a long enough chat. I was just going to ask a few random questions, like the normal ones. Who's your windsurfing hero? Give me some windsurfing hero.
Of course, the older ones are right, but I'm also
true.
I mean, looking, I would say the heroes, we all have the same. I mean, George Stone, Björn Dankerbeck, and so on. But looking at those days now, what the Brasilio does in the waves, or what the Matteo Iachino just did in Guadeloupe, or Liam Dankerbeck reached in the last few years in terms of skill level, what Philippe Custer still does. And there are so many heroes in a certain section, but I like the slalom guys, of course. I go for a world champion title this year, but the others are not bad.
I tell you what, Geordie's been mentioned a few times by quite a few people, so he's obviously going pretty rapid.
Every second day I do this. We made the boards. We have the fins.
Do you not think you need to poke him more? Like I'd stop stroking him and poke him a bit, because I feel like he needs some more. Like he's too
Geordie
nice.
Geordie has a share of a marketing job now at Duotone, and I told him if he's not performing well, he will end up here in the office with me. No, I definitely think Geordie's not finished out there, and he's really, really well prepared. But as I saw in Tenerife, the other guys, I mean, Amado, you don't want to miss out on him, and all the other guys. I mean, also our new guy Benedetti and Matteo Iachino. All the guys. I don't even want to say this guy is good or this guy is bad. They all have a chance and a crack on the world champion title. But of course, it's always the same at the end of the day.
Give me a name who's like, maybe, I mean, Matchet used to ask, who's the most underrated? Someone who you think had all the talent but never quite lived up to it in terms of results or something like this, because there's anyone like that? So, not an easy one.
At the end of the day, looking at last year, Geordie was so good in Gran Canaria, and I called him, how are you doing? And he was puking sick, couldn't sail, and still managed to not win, but all be there. I would say last year he could have won the world championship title on the fin for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's underrated, but I think he has the ability to win both.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that the others are bad, but I think in terms of this, he's not underrated, but a bit unlucky. Right? Let's say like
yeah.
you say.
Yeah. What's the proudest?
Oh.
I was going to say, what's the board you're the most proudest of creating? Which is
I
the
think
one
it was the freestyle board.
Yeah.
Because everybody kind of thought, what is this idiot doing there? And sometimes I looked in the mirror, I was like, man, I'm really an idiot. I kind of like that board, but nobody else likes it. Why is it so short? Why doesn't he like it? And when Tonki said it's not working. And then when Steven won the world champion title, that was really, I was flying up to Sylt and we were celebrating that. And I even made a gold edition. Maybe you remember.
I remember. Yeah, I remember.
Particular thing. And I even helped Steven to rip off Martin Brandner to get his new contract for the year after. So that was really cool. So, but that was the proudest board, I think. And then Pierre Montefont's world champion title was really cool too.
Yeah, no,
I've got a question, Daniel. If you could go anywhere in the world for a windsurf holiday, where would you go?
I'm the Cape Town guy, okay, but Paul, where you just have been, Coronation Beach back in the day when Jagger was still a kid, I was there sailing. This spot is such a nice playground in board shorts. Yeah, I like Australia.
All right,
Cape Town.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah,
I'm just hang on.
Well, he's still actually Jagger's still there. He was sailing there today, so
is that it?
You can still sail with him.
That's the one.
Look at those graphics.
Yeah, that's fucking.
My God, you've even got like.
That was the third edition where I made the pads even smaller. The first one was just black and white.
Yeah, no, I remember.
Oh my God! Back in those days, they really went wild with the graphic, huh?
8 ball.
That's amazing.
Like it.
The 8 ball.
Like it. All right. I can't remember any. My brain's gone 2 hours.
No, before I forget. Sorry, this is just a segue from before. This is just a question I had, but we talked about sailors. One question I've often thought is there any? Do you guys measure? Or is there any? What's the word I'm looking for? Way to know that an investment in a sailor is paying off. So, example, you just say, okay, we're going to pay the sailor $20,000 for this year. However, if you're going to spend $20,000 as a business, I'm assuming you're hoping for a return on that of some kind, or to make it worthwhile. How do you measure that investment to know that it's actually working, or is it just more a case of, I like Geordie, he's doing a good job, and that's good enough? A simple question, you know what I mean? Like, maybe I haven't framed it very well, but yeah, how does that work?
Also, looking at those days today, one big thing is the gear the guys need, okay? Because back in the day, I remember I heard some stories from the 90s. They just got a truckload of gear and they had to sell it or sail it and break it. Those days, to have a slalom guy on your team, and if he tells you that he wants to go foil racing too, it costs you a fortune to just give him the gear he needs to be able to compete, which takes quite a bit of a share of his budget, right? And at the other, it's basically a mix between a salary, I would say, and incentive. And of course, as a brand, you're looking at the end. I mean, it's always hard to say, if you don't get first, we kick you out, okay? At the end, it's also the image a guy creates for your brand. Because I think if Geordie would leave Duotone in 3 years' time, everybody still believes he's riding Duotone, for example, or Victor Fernandez as well, right? He has always been with us. But at the end of the day, it's just how you have this cake and you have to split it as fair as you can. But I never thought that the guy was kind of overpaid, I would say, or underpaid. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny you should say that, because when I think of Francisco Goya, I can't help but think Fanatic arrows, or especially Fanatic. I just, I still.
And Jostone, you
I have
think
a really
he's
strong
riding Goya
association
for
with
15 years. For me, he's still the F2 near Pride guy.
F2
Or JP.
JP, yeah.
Pretty hard, that one, isn't it? That's a tricky one. I was going to say,
cool. No, thanks for
if
answering that.
have you got a dream rider that you would sign if you could? It's a difficult question, that, because maybe they're still out there, or in the past that you would have thought, I wish we'd have had him on my team. Or
I would have
Benny
loved
Prophet.
I would love to have Matteo Iachino for longer on the racing. So we had Pierre and him. It would have been like now in Formula One,
sweep.
Piastri and just partying, right? And I think now it's hard. I mean, I like to have the guys with me as close as possible, also for the development. I like to have a team around us or myself, which I can call friends as well. Makes work just more fun, I would say.
Yeah.
I never liked that kind of being a boss and the other guy being a rider and stuff. I like to be on a level. And also with the factory, for example, with Vasin running the factory, to be equal, that if he thinks this is wrong, telling me honest, and we work it out together. And this is what I also like on team riders, or with our group here, with Raul, Alex, and Yannick and Marco involved in the Duotone here. The closer group that we are working like as a family, and it's the whole company is pretty much like this.
Yeah. That's cool, man. Cool.
Environment is important.
Yeah, I think it makes a big difference. Like us, I don't really like Paul, but we try and put on this facade that we are good friends, and have fun working together.
I think it's the best.
He just gets me on because it helps his ad revenue.
I've got this new sponsor for bald heads.
I mean, I've watched every single podcast or video you've ever made, because I think it's the best thing for the industry in general. I'm really interested also to see the other guys. I mean, even some guys talking about products forever. There's always something interesting, and I think it's cool to have open eyes for everything, and everybody has his own opinion. And there are other brands out there which make great products, but we keep trying to make the best one. It's just what keeps you going forward, right?
No, 100%. 100%. Wow, he watched every video. What a fucking legend.
Cool.
You go to
every single one.
I'll have to test him.
Yeah,
that's
the
amazing.
quiz is going to start now.
I haven't seen Ben Severn for a while, so you should hunt him one day down.
He's very difficult, to be fair. To get on a podcast. I don't think you'd get him.
But when I was testing sales for Severn back in 2008, it was really easy. I was waiting in Perth at the river, and he never showed up. And one day later, he called me that in Esperance, the conditions were really great. This is kind of how we know him.
If you can find him, you just look at the forecast. But to get him on a podcast, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen.
Wait, Daniel, I'm gonna test your knowledge. If you've been watching this podcast, who is the guest that we've been promising to get on?
Oh, that's the one from yesterday.
Hasn't been on. Oh, okay, good on you, mate.
On a serious note, Dani, thanks for joining us. We will be having Pete Cabrina on at some point. We've been tapping him up for a year. He's probably given up on us. I messaged him today. We will.
I'm waiting.
Did you?
And Ken Winner.
Ken Winner, yes.
He's been the best windsurfer in his years. He's been the best kite surfer. He's doing the wing design at our company now. He's almost 70, twice as fit as we all of us. The guy is absolutely.
I do have a bit of a confession to make, because
he's a legend.
At the end of the Defi last year, I kind of saw this Hall of Famers, and I was like, right. I came back and I was like, Paul, we're going to just get the Hall of Famers on. We're going to go through all this list. And Paul had been speaking to Pete Cabrina, or maybe it was Paul's idea. I can't remember. But I was like, yeah. And so far, we've really under-delivered. Well, we're not even under-delivered. We haven't delivered any Hall of Famers, I don't think. So we are going to put that right at some point. So
Cool.
hopefully we'll sort it out.
All right. So keep up
Thank
all
you
the
so
work,
much.
guys. Thank you very much for all you do for the sport. I try to do my part on my side, and you guys do it on your side, and we try our best.
No, thank you so much, Daniel. I have to say it's been super valuable, not just for me, I'm sure everybody listening, but I've learned quite a lot about Duotone, even just the different boards and how it all works. It's super cool. I'm really I'm going to be sentimental here, but I think the beauty of these podcasts and people like yourself, is that it actually makes my connection to the sport stronger, and probably everybody listening, because they just have an insider knowledge, and it just you become more connected to the sport because you have a better understanding of the ins and outs of it. I think it's really important for that, for the sport. Yeah. Okay, that's enough.
Oh, mate. You keep breaking up as well. I'm waiting for it. It keeps cutting out for me. I'm like, what? All right, see ya. Go do some work, Dani. Good to chat.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks, mate. Till next time. Bye. See you, mate. It's really hard to crack a joke and have a delay. It doesn't quite work.
I know. I think that's what people don't realize. They probably think we're talking over each other and are quite annoying. But with the delay, you're breaking up. You probably don't realize it. But every 10 seconds,
really?
we miss like something you say. So it depends on the timing.
I swear, I'm living in a first world country with third world internet, man. It's bad. Like Gerald, and I don't know what's going on with the internet here.
So we're going to go to 5, 4. That's okay. All right, let's go. I've got to go check a baby.
Cool, man. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next week with Pete Cabrino, hopefully.
Pete Cabrino. He's coming in.
It's that time of the week again. Sit back, relax, we got the brain of band. No need to stress in the house, it's Van Bellen. The game is windsurfing, you can yell them or tell them. We get the news, the views, the win biz. The brand's gear tips plus the world's best quiz. The Cobs PWA. We're professionals without the pay. There's nothing in pole dancing that we won't chat. From tandem boards to a windsurfing cat. It's your one-stop shop for a laugh and listen. Tune in each week or you'll be doing the missing.